Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this interview conversation. I want to introduce to you, to my community, Dr. Stephanie Rimka. She's been doing this work for the last 2 decades, helping people, transforming and changing people's lives, allowing the sick to become well and allowing the well to become optimized to their greatest versions. I'm really excited about this. This is going to be a cool conversation.
Awesome. I am too, Jared. And so everybody, we're doing something for the very first time. We are going simultaneously live on each other's YouTube. So if you're here on my channel, I'm Dr. Rimka, your brain optimization expert. And you know, we're all about upgrading and up-leveling and bringing some disruption to the health transformation industry because we all need it right now. And this is Jared Bull, and he's come across my path. He's a transformational coach, and you can hire him one-on-one to kind of help blow you up, your business up, or even your company up. So one of my friends was using him, and I guess we just all kind of met up, and I was on one of his trainings a little bit, and I liked what he had to
Now we're here.
Now we're meeting. Now we're starting to date.
Yep. So I wanted to go into shame because that's, I think, a really big topic, not only in my industry, but especially in the health and wellness industry as well, too. And I know with the work that you do, Stephanie, you really help individuals, get optimize their life, optimize their health, their emotions. It's all of it. Like wellness is the body, it's the mind, it's the emotion. And so really, one of the reasons why I wanted to go into shame was because I had to work through it. And I'm sure there's still probably parts that I have to work through that I don't even know about yet. But shame is like this silent killer. And I see it in my clients. I see it everywhere. I see it manifest in the body. And it's a silent killer that keeps people from actually going after what it is that they want because of deep-rooted feelings of unworthiness or lack of trust. Can we just have a cool conversation around this topic? And I'd love to hear your experience with this, and maybe if you see it come up if you've seen it come up in your work. I mean, you've been doing this for 2 decades. Two decades. So
it's up. Well, it's interesting because when you said that, I went, wow, man, you're not even just no kind of foreplay. He's going right at shame. I mean, that's usually, you don't bring that up with patients in quite a while, to be honest, but it's getting there, Jared. I love it. I love a linear masculine approach at all things, right? So let's just hit it. So obviously it's very, Brene Brown has brought fame to shame. So she's the most classically referenced right now. She really did, kind of like Dr. Amen made brain imaging sexy, right? So he wasn't the first to do it, but he certainly branded it really well. So I do things from a brain-based perspective. My lens is based in the nervous system and in brain disorders and brain imaging. So that's my specialty, is studying the nervous system and how it relates to emotional and mental health. And when you get into things where I started specializing in bipolar and schizophrenia and anxiety, depression, suicidal cases, and then I branched into autism and ADHD and dyslexia and other learning disorders. So I would see these adults I was working with. Well, they were already adults. It's like, this is hard to do and I can do it. But man, if I can get to these kids that some of these brain-based disorders were causing the things that led to this later in life, what could I do? So my practice, kind of 50-50, full of a bunch of kids that I'm dealing with brain-based disorders, and then adults that are further along. And you have to, looking at the brain, you have to end up looking at the gut and digestion and immune system. So ultimately, although I'm board certified as a neurofeedback therapist, I'm a doctor of chiropractic, what I end up really practicing, the lens through which I see things, is psychoneuroimmunology. So that's looking at psychology, psychiatry, neurology, and immunology. We could throw the word endo in there because it really affects the endocrine and hormone system. So you kind of have to be able to look at all of that, but that is the lens through which I see things. Electromagnetic, hormonal, neurotransmitters, and emotions and how they tie into it. And shame, without a doubt, is one of those unhealthy, I'm not even sure we should call it an emotion, because it's a really distorted and perverse flip side of a healthy emotion. So it's kind of the perversion of guilt. It's what we do in an unhealthy way. We take something that's actually a healthy indicator, somebody with good moral compass, who has morals and values and beliefs, and you break that. When you break something that you know to be true, and you lie, you steal, you hurt, right? You deceive. You feel bad. You should. A healthy psyche will feel bad. You'll have guilt. The guilt is a motivating emotion for you to go back and correct that behavior, make an amends with those people that you did something to, that you violated a boundary of trust of some sort, and to keep you course corrected to not repeat that, because I don't want to have that feeling again. I don't want to feel guilty like that again. Shame is a perversion of that guilt. Shame makes you think, we'll get into it. Guilt is I did a behavior and I feel bad. Shame is I did a behavior, I am bad. I'm therefore bad. I'm ruined. I'm broken. I have no value because I'm the lie. I'm the stealing. I'm the crime. I'm the behavior. Brene Brown has brought a tremendous amount of energy and speaks so beautifully about it. And I think that's a really good thing, but there's sometimes in the field right now, it's talked about a lot. It's kind of like mindfulness. It's talked about a lot, but sometimes we don't really get what it is. And there's a lot of confusion sometimes. I heard somebody say to me recently, one of my patients said it, and I was like, what? He said, well, guilt is a useless emotion. I'm like, no, it's not. Because if you didn't have guilt, you're a sociopath. We define and classify a psychopath as somebody who has no guilt or no remorse. That is not normal. So I think people don't know the difference oftentimes between guilt and shame. And my job is to help really break that down and then teach children the difference, right? Because shaming has become a parenting tool. Absolutely. And we have to teach them the difference. Like, no, you want your kid to feel guilty. I want, if they punch Johnny in the face, I do want you to feel bad. Or you stole the candy bar from your brother, I do want you to feel guilty and come tell me, I'm sorry, I felt bad, I lied to you. That's really good. That's a beautiful moment. But if you're using shame to try and get that to happen, not only are you maybe going to take that guilt and pervert it and turn it into shame, you're going to possibly set up a lifelong trauma of shame in the body that absolutely, there are no autoimmune disorders that do not have shame tied into them deeply. It is why more women have autoimmune disorders than men, hands down, because we are more easily shamed, and we lock it into our physiology and we live with it for decades, and we continue to abuse ourselves and punish ourselves through pain and fatigue. And that's a shaming disease, because we feel we deserve it. So we will create with our mind that we must be punished.
So how is it, I'm curious, and I love the distinction between shame and guilt. I think that's really key. How is it that this cycle even starts? I mean, does it just start in childhood with bad parenting or just unaware parenting, or?
Well, it actually doesn't even, I don't think everything has to start from the parent directly. So we do know things are, so just coming from a concept of social psychology, one concept is, I had all of my scripts of life given to me by the time I was 18 months to 24 months. So by the time you're 2, you have made decisions about what men are like, what women are like, what the world is like, what your family is like, and what you are like. That means, it could be men are powerful and strong. Women are confident and capable. The world is terrifying. I'm weak and fragile and never safe, right? They could be very different decisions you've made. These do come from your parents, all unconscious. This is all just given to you. It was given to them from their parents, and their parents gave them to them, which is why we have, every generation has its own work to do to switch those scripts, to change the story. So hopefully, I know my mother created better scripts for herself than she was given from her parents. Absolutely. I know she's a better mother than her mother. The job is for me. Can I break the scripts that were given to me from my family and my lineage? So you have these scripts that are given. That's just social psychology. Then we have the concept of epigenetics, where stories and traumas and things are passed down for multi-generations, bound into your DNA. So if you're a survivor of the Holocaust or the Great Depression or something, this trauma is passed down to you. So my family comes from a line of, the line of Muslims in Pakistan and what they went through, another line of slaves. Those things are embedded into my genetic patterning. And it's up to me and what I do with that. And if I can start to unravel and break some of those patterns, or do I like kind of fall victim to them, just me being stuck in that pattern, right? And so that's where working on yourself and self-awareness and having insight so you can see things and then make a choice. Because yes, I was given these gifts, these scripts, I was given stories of how to interpret the world, and because they worked for my family, it's my job to figure out that. So one, I don't think everything is like mom and dad's fault. I think there's a lineage and there's a whole line. And not to get too esoteric, I'm a soul. Who I am is consciousness that came into, as a soul being that came into a physical matter as a one point in time as a Stephanie Rimka experience. This is just one experience of consciousness that I'm having. So I've been here before and I will be back again. And I'm having the same experience, I believe, in multi-dimensions simultaneously. So therefore, I bring all of that to the table in my morals, values, and beliefs. So my morals and values and beliefs are shaped by a lot of different things, and I can change those things, right? So some of that is going to come from, I think my spirit came in with certain beliefs. My soul had different experiences, and it chose this family for a reason. I'm a bit esoteric and woo. I do believe I chose my parents. I chose this life, very intentionally for what I needed to be here to do, right? So I'm no victim in any way. So some of that you can just do to yourself. I know a lot of the choices and decisions I made as a child, nobody said that to me. Now, I might have picked up these unconscious scripts, but there was no one actually shaming me except myself. And, that does go on very much so. And it is a parenting style. There's lots of jokes about cultural stereotypes or some, like, oh, that's what they do. A good, like different cultural references of shaming as a tactic, because it's a powerful manipulative tool, right? And it's a way to get control. So let's say an adult let's go extreme. Let's say an adult is going to abuse a child. Let's just get it on the table. Child molestation, pedophilia, whatever, right? Which is real big on the top of current of things that's in the world right now. People are aware of things they were never aware of. It's not easy. I mean, it's not hard to shame an adult. The power differential of what can go on psychologically, of course you're going to use shame. Because that you can wrap that kid like this. You can do anything you want. So shame is a very easy tool to control somebody in a lesser position than you, that you have any authority over. You will break their psyche very, very quickly. It's not hard to take an uncomfortable, bad feeling moment and make them think it's their fault, and this therefore now marks them as dirty for life, and therefore this is all you deserve for life. So it's really about value. So was I clear on the guilt versus shame, distinction?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I thought that was great. And there's like 6 or 7 different conversational threads there, which I love, which makes it a juicy conversation. But I do want to go back to the epigenetics, because I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I know in epigenetics, and they talk about junk DNA as well too. What's your view of junk DNA?
I don't think there's any such thing as junk DNA.
Yeah, neither do I. I just want to hear with your background and your experience.
I think that's as logical and factual as saying you only use 5% of your brain.
Right.
That's not true. So there's hotspot slogans that people have said because they read it in a Reader's Digest and they keep repeating it as if it's a fact.
Yeah.
Not true.
Yep. I love that. Yeah. So how do you see then, like the quote, like I see quote unquote junk DNA, what the community that says that is basically something waiting to get activated, like by the environment, epigenetics. Okay, like I have this new experience, and then because of this new experience, something within me arises that has never arisen before. I mean, I have enough present awareness to realize that I don't just create myself, life also creates me. And I can see that just by the people that I connect with. Like if I connect with a certain person, I'll feel a very different spirit come out of me as opposed to if I connect with someone else. So what's your thoughts, I guess, around helping people who are trapped in some sort of paradigm within their life because of that invisible force and shame? Mm-hmm. How can they break outside of that? And there's a connecting piece there too, but I think I just want to stay with that and then go to the next thing. How can a person break outside of that shame-based paradigm that they may be in that they don't even know they're in?
Well, I'm a huge fan of know thyself, right? So I believe know thyself has many ways to do it. And I do think one of the best ways is to be with help, a coach or somebody to reflect. I believe in the reflection because the reality is when I look into a mirror, I don't really see myself. I see a reflection of a two-dimensional version of what I think I look like. I have no real true experience of what it is to interact with me. As far as I know, I'm just projecting a hologram and you're a part of it and you're projecting yours and we are co-creating in some holographic reality that we don't really know what it is. That's the truth, is the observer, is what quantum physics will tell us. So we don't really know. So, but knowing that, let's say I'm playing in this three-dimensional reality, I like coaches. I like therapists, coaches, hiring people, reflecting back, even sometimes for people, this is just a really good friend to sometimes sit down and tell the truth. But sometimes your friends won't really want to tell the truth because they love you so much. They don't want to hurt your feelings. But I like to know things about myself. So some of the ways that I do that, I get people to, like patients of mine, I love brain images. I do brain maps on people, 19 channel maps. Believe it or not, when you see your brain and how it works and I reflect it back to you, there's a rightness about you that I can validate. There are signatures in the brain that you see things the way that you do. You have an artist signature. You have a mu phenotype. You have I can just tell you all about yourself and based on what I'm seeing and what's connected and what's not connected and why you can meditate easily and why you can't. It's right there. I can also tell that from hormone panels and neurotransmitter panels. I just had the last consult before I was racing to get to here. It was like, oh, I bet you're boom, 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 boom. And boom, they're like, oh, as a husband and wife team. And I could describe them black and white and they're totally opposite of each other. And it was like, yeah, but that's you. So if you know who you are a little bit more based on your morals, values, and beliefs, which are you making your perceptions, that's just the scripts of where you come from. And then your actual biological anatomical structure and physiology, it helps you know that you have a natural rhythm towards like, hey, you're naturally competitive and perfectionistic. Don't fight it. You're naturally not. Like this one's laid back and really like that's I don't think we give enough leeway for people to be themselves. So I like that, ways people can know themselves to validate. I like things like Enneagram, human design, Myers-Briggs, astrology, like any way I can bring information to somebody so they can know their strengths and their weaknesses is one, because you can be shaming yourself for something about yourself that you didn't realize because you're trying to fit somebody else's mold and you're reflecting your friends and you finally go, oh, like, I don't need to be trying to be like, no, you're not like that. If you just stop, like it's such a it's okay that you're logical and detached and go to problem solving, but she's always, because you're an Aquarian or that, and this one goes to here because they're a lot, like they're more sensitive and they're a Pisces and they flow in emotion. Just don't shame each other or make anybody wrong. Like you're right in that. That's your strength, and this is so. Don't try to be, I'm into building your strengths. Like if I know I suck at something, I don't need to, why would I take 4 classes on that? Like I'm into increasing my genius. I'm into making what I'm good at really good. So if my son is struggling, he's really bad at math, but he's really good at poetry. Do you think I'm going to put him in a poetry class or get him a math tutor?
Right.
I'm getting him a poetry teacher. Yeah. I don't care about I'm like, who gives a well, who cares?
Right. Well, no, hey, it's totally welcome.
So some of that is that. Like some of it is you might be being critical. If you're a natural artist in a family of accountants, that in and of itself, they're not trying to shame you, but you just notice you're not fitting into the clan real well, right? So, it comes down to if you're like, oh, like that's. So I think we just have some of that where we shame people for their differences without realizing it, and or you think well, my formula for success in my family is everybody's a physician, but I want to be a religion professor. You know, I had friends I went to school with, Indians, because I'm Indian, and you have to be a surgeon. There was no choice for these guys. And crying. I had a friend crying with me. We were studying for an exam because he wanted to get a PhD in religion and be a college professor because he was so inspired by his professor and he loved these religion courses. And I sat there stunned, like, that would make you the family loser? And he's like, oh, yeah. I have to go to medical school or I will bring shame to my family.
Wow.
So the Indian culture is that strong in it. Like you honor the family and you bring respect to this family or you have shamed us.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to go with it. So I think one, you know yourself a little bit, get some help, have somebody show you your strengths and so you just know like, oh, that isn't a bad thing that I do. That's just who I am. And so I'm no longer going to apologize and I'm actually going to be proud of it. Yeah. And there's still to review, you might be working with a therapist or a coach. Sometimes you might have to write some of these memories down. I work with early memories with people and I have us talk about it. What's your earliest memory? And tell me about it. And we can see the story because the reality is you can change memories. Memories are completely plastic. There's nothing permanent about them. We know every time you tell a story, you're changing the memory so much that memories are just complete nonsense, to be honest. So when you tell people that, I'm like, you can just play any trick on yourself that you want. And every time because there's so many expert witnesses, PhDs that are explaining eyewitness testimony, it should be thrown out. It should never be used in court. It's completely meaningless. You can implant false memories in people so easily at a crime scene. You can make your mind believe anything. So the reality is if you remember your dad was cruel and vicious and shamed you and belittled you and beat you, you can change that memory actually working with a skilled therapist. It doesn't mean it didn't happen that way, but you can completely change your perception and your power position and your feeling of shame in that. And I've done it countless of times for myself and for clients and seen it done in course rooms as I was teaching or anything else. So that's a way, some awareness and then working with somebody to go into, well, why do you believe it? What really happened? Sometimes there's that, we're like landmark form, if you've done all that stuff, like we're meaning making machines. We just make things up about whatever. I'm like, well, did that really happen? Or are you just making up that happened? And if you're going to make up stories, why not make up stories where you're like the winning badass?
Right.
Instead of the other one. So I often usually, if shame is a real big deal, usually there's going to be some professional support that is needed because it gets locked into the body and we really do need to move it out in many ways. It is trapped physiologically and you need support and you often need a therapist to help you as you bring it up because it can be re-traumatizing to bring it up, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's so many good nuggets there. And if we had time, I would go down every single conversational thread, but I really loved your point around having it getting shame trapped in the body or in the nervous system. And I'm kind of curious, how do you get that out? Like, how do you actually, if you have shame trapped in the nervous system?
Well, there's a lot of ways. I would say one of the easy ways. So again, let's say you don't even know what's going on. One, your breath controls your brain. So breathing is really, if you learn to breathe right, that allows you to get to be embodied in a way. So people with trauma and shame that go along with that are very, very commonly disembodied. It's part of why I think it leads to so many body pain disorders and severe obesity disorders because you're desperately, your spirit, your soul, it is a wound and it is desperate to put you in your body.
Definitely.
It's going to cause pain. It's going to cause weight. It's going to cause issues. It's like, please pay attention to me, but you're here and you're trying to maybe dissociate a lot and it's trying really, really hard to keep you there. So one way to deal with that, and then pain causes people to want to leave more, right? So it's a really vicious circle. But breathing is one of those simple things. It's free. Now you might, believe it or not, need to take a class on it. You might need to buy a book about it. There's a lot of We don't understand breathing really well, but the calming parasympathetic breathing to bring your parasympathetic means calm nervous system, your rest and digest, your everything. I'm safe. I'm secure. I can heal. You have to be there to heal. You can't be there if you're ready to kill somebody. The body doesn't do that. So as I sit here, relax, my body will find, sick cells or cancer cells or old things, and it'll build bone. It'll do all kinds of things for me without me thinking about it. It's lovely. But breathing through the nose, nasal breathing only, not breathing through the mouth, is something I teach everybody. It's really, really critical. So if you breathe through the nose only, like including exercising, like if you can't breathe through your mouth and your nose only, you shouldn't be doing it. So I train people to breathe through their nose during the day, catch themselves, do nose breathing like once every hour, just 1 minute of just consistently in and out. You will cause a reset. You will change what's happening in your brain and your physiology. There's mouth tape to make sure you stay a nasal breather at night. So these are very, very simple things. They don't require you talking about your problems. They don't require you crying. But it starts to change your physiology to put it in a more safe nervous system. So the nervous system will never let you handle shame or trauma if it doesn't feel relaxed. Right? We have to calm you down first, period. It's why it takes so long in therapy for that therapist to build rapport. That's all they're doing. Maybe 6 months is rapport building. So you can feel safe enough to talk about what you're really ashamed of, because what we're ashamed of is like, it feels like death to talk about that, because we have accidentally assigned a mistake as our value. We've accidentally said, I did something wrong, but that now makes me bad.
Right. There's an identification
It's
of it.
a total misnomer, right? The example I give in the class that, like Wendy took, $100 bill, and any kid can understand. You take $100 bill, crisp and clean, and you say, who wants a $100 bill? They go, I do. They go, how much is it worth? They're like, $100. Then I can take it and I can ball it up. I can rub it in the dirt. I can tear it a little bit. I take marker all over it, stick it in some water, whatever. Okay. Who wants it now? Pretty much everybody says I still want the $100.
Right.
And I'm like, well, why? But now it's dirty. It's dirty. It's marked. It's torn. They're like, but why? So why do you want it? Because it's still worth $100. That's guilt. It's just made some mistakes, but it has the same value. But what we do is say, oh, look, I'm a $100 bill and I made some mistakes and I'm dirty and I clearly must be worth nothing.
Yeah.
We're not understanding. No, you're still $1 million.
Yeah.
You just have a little nick on you now.
It's so funny. I always, whenever I coach like executives or CEOs, I always, and I had this, this is part of my own journey, but I always see that self-worth, net worth comparison there.
Yeah.
There's always that, like, if I'm not at this level, then like, I'm like, and I'm like, dude, I'm with you. Like, I get it, but it's your self-worth does not equal your net worth and vice versa. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to make good money, but so many times I've seen that in my own journey, but also in the journey of the people that I've worked with. And
what they're craving is that net worth is a reflection of their beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a reflection of their beliefs. And so what they're craving is, I want to have a better unconscious belief system, and they're judging themselves that they don't already. And so that's all it's like, okay, buddy, we can work on that. That's easy. And you can do it slowly, with affirmations or tapping, and you can do it fast with brain technologies. I mean, so the breathing is a basic thing. And that's just one part that somebody can do. The next step I would probably say would take it a little bit further. I would recommend to everybody out here is something called heart math breathing.
Oh yeah.
Right. So doing like a biofeedback, like heart math, right? $100, you can buy the device and do the phone app. I do like the $400 or $500. It's not even expensive to do it on the desktop. So we have every patient always does heart math. You can do it yourself. It's 10 minutes a day of a focused breathing style and using energy, bringing emotion, of feeling good, feeling love. Sometimes I think heart math or guided meditation is a little bit too much. It's about just imagine like, holding your cat or your dog, like just I can picture that, So we start, and sometimes in the office, I would bring my dog and would it feel better if the dog was on you? They're like, oh yeah. Cats bring up, if you like cats at all, cats bring up that that heart rate coherence and alpha brain really easily. It's an odd thing that a cat can do. Yeah, it's like they purr and you're like, I don't know what that is, but it's awesome. Yeah. So heart math is a simple thing people can do 10 minutes a day that will absolutely align the heart field to make it coherent. It's a special way your heart will beat, you guys, and the way you breathe, and you sync the heart to the brain. And you want to really be thinking from here, because if you're thinking from here, it aligns this to be integrated left and right hemisphere really, really beautifully. And so you're seeing things from a whole perspective, not overly, left hemisphere, overly thinking and not seeing more of the holographic aspect of things. So it brings it all together and solutions come much easier. Things just download better. You're in a flow state. And when you're in your heart, when you can get to that, shame cannot live here.
Right.
It's love and compassion. Fear doesn't go there. Shame doesn't go there. You will learn to speak to yourself like you would speak to a 3-year-old child that you love. It's very different, but I think we get so disconnected from our heart, and culture does that. Culture wants us to be left hemispheric only. And once you say, no, all you got to do is breathe and go into the heart in 10 minutes and you're right back there. And so you can do that all the time pretty easily, right? You are in control of that. So it starts to just get it off of you. So you might not need as much talk and support, right? That's the first way. I have to start with that. And I do like guided, kind of, they wouldn't call them meditations, but they're like guided shamanic exercises where we take people to different parts of different chakras and they see things. We just kind of take them through and let their system heal it out. And if we want to go all the way down the rabbit hole, I think
I was just about to say, let's just go there.
I think if you go all the way, I like shamanic circles, I like shamanic journeys, I like healing group circles, and I think entheogens, or what we would call psychedelics, are extraordinarily powerful in clearing this out under the right set and setting, and with an experienced shaman. There is nothing like it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Stephanie, can we go there? Because I think
go there, Jared.
Right, cool, awesome. Because I love it. I'm total experience in terms of subjective experience, but also in training, like spirit, physical, emotional, but like I get it. It's all connected, and we have to address all and work with all.
Yeah.
When we talk about the chakras, like some people have a sense of them. I have a very clear sense of them. I'm at the point now where I have those other senses developed, clairvoyance, clairsentience. I can see the energy of a person if they're really close to me, and I can see what's going on in the field. How would you connect? There's like 3 different questions that I have. Okay. So meta, but it's like going from here to down here. So I'm trying to really think about how I can ask this so it makes sense.
Okay. This might be a whole nother talk we have.
Yeah, it might be a whole nother talk. And I know we got to close up in at least 20 minutes here. And I definitely want to take some time at least.
So we're on, you're talking about vortices of light, right? So that's what they are. So is that like, where do you want to?
Yeah, we could go into this. So like,
we don't have to.
Yeah. So whatever. So like, for instance, I know that it starts at the quantum level. Like I know it starts at that electromagnetic vibrational level. We are quantum beings in the sense that, quantum physics makes us who we are. It's like there's quantum physics, like we're molecules. Then right above that, we have the physics of it and the biology, then the chemistry, and like the levels sequentially go up. But I know at the vision, like when we're visualizing or doing some of these shamanic journeying and things like this, like we're working at the core of who we really are as a vibrational being, and that connection with the chakras as well. So I guess my question is how do you best work with all of it? I mean, because like you can do visualizations and things like that, and I think that's really powerful. But then at the same time, we have to work at the body. So it's like when it comes to healing or optimizing, which you've been doing for the last 2 decades, do you find it helpful to come at it from like a purely biological standpoint and address that, but then also address like the quantum realm, or like come both ends, or how do you?
Yeah, well, so I love how you said all that. And so I'm going to say this. It could be it's easier for me to hear what you were saying or understand what you're saying. And it was a struggle for you because you are a man and I am more right brain dominant than you naturally. And women are just more holographic in our nature, right? The feminine energy is circular. Feminine energy is that. Masculine energy is more linear, logical, point to point. I am very right brain dominant, actually. So I'm a woman, so I have a natural feminine way of seeing things in a whole and putting everything together. I happen to just be, that's probably my, I don't know how else to not see it. So I'm incredibly circular and I see a lot of things happening at once. And I see it that way. So when I see a person, let's say I see a patient or whatever, I start things, I'm primarily, people are consciousness. What is consciousness? To me, it's the energy of everything that ever was, ever will be, and will never cease to exist. That is a frequency that I would probably call back to Sophia. And I would look at that as it's a sound light combination. So it is completely explained in physics, but it's not matter, but it's that, right? And so all the chakra system is a channel through which that comes through and how it happens, right? So it's just a highway system that we can access and see in this dimensional matter. It's a different dimension, but we can see it, right? So I think for me, I do it all simultaneously. I know that can be overwhelming to people when they see me. So I know a way to talk about it, but I show them, I draw it all out. Like, this is how I see it. And we're going to do all of it at once. You've been trying to do it this stair step way.
Right.
Healing isn't linear. It's not going to happen that way. So I'm going to address your sound. I'm going to look at light. I'm going to look at matter. I'm going to look at structure. I'm going to look at the spirit. I'm going to look at soul wounds. I'm going to look at past lives, ancestors, genetics. I'm going to clear chakras. I'm going to do pranic sessions. I'm going to put crystals on you. I do all of it simultaneously. So I'm just as likely to put a mala on you, put you on the table, clear an entity off the left hemisphere of your brain, as I'm telling you how to increase your dopamine with a certain subset of supplements, right? I am just looking at it all. And if whatever parts I can't do, I will bring in experts. I'm like, oh, I know that's what we need to do. I know we're going to work with these other 2 clinicians and we're going to get it together. We're going to work on it. And I let them know it's like, what that prongs in a fire or whatever that phrase is. And again, some people are really obvious that you're going to work on biological first. You're going to work on spirit first. Some things it's really, really obvious. I might really strongly lead with brain imaging and labs for a long time. And it might take 3-4 months before I bring up a whole emotional conversation that now we're ready for this, and they're ready. I have to oftentimes stabilize structure. Function and structure are critical. And if I have an abnormal structure that's creating chaotic function, I have to stabilize that before I can get in other things, right? I look at it for me like neurology, spirituality is governed by neurology. So I need the neurology stable. I need the structure right. I need the river being calm. So as I bring things into you and integrate, it'll all make sense. I don't want to fight against the tide as I bring the pieces in and I set it up along a pace that works. So I'm not going to shock a system or explode a system. I want to follow the psyche along and help it as I'm dealing with every part. And I don't think everybody always does it that way. And I think
Definitely not.
People's system can be shocked and exploded. And I think that can be, unfortunate. But you have to set up the expectation and tell them, this will take me 2 months. This is going to take 6 months. We need to work on this for a good year. You have to this is not a problem. I got this in 2 months. Or like,
Definitely.
It's gonna take a minute. You know, you want to let them know what to expect and what the partnership is.
Right.
I don't want a false expectation. And if they're not in it to win it, you can go on to somebody else, because I'm not McDonald's. I am not like this. We're getting to the root cause, and we're going at it, you know? So that's what I like. I like to go deep, and I like to, you know, and I want, when they're done, I want them to fire me. Trust me. I'm never happier than when they're like, Doc, I don't need to see you anymore. I'm like, high five.
Right.
Because I want them to see that they're the divine healer. Don't ever call me your healer. I'm not.
Right. You're a facilitator.
Yeah. I'm just helping remove the chaos and the noise, and bringing you back here, so you can remember who you really are, which is the I from the heart, which is consciousness, which is frequency, which will never cease to be. So, and you're just having an experience, and go have fun with it. Right. Like, you know, so when people remember that a little bit, and trust me, I didn't always remember that. I used to be like, all the things. I get it. I was there. It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, definitely. So this brings up the really cool topic of, so sometimes when I have people come to me, that they're in the mind and they know all of this. And there was one point in my life where I knew all this intellectually, but I wasn't fully embodying it. Mm-hmm. And so I remember I got to a point where I kind of just stopped looking for, like, you know, I know them all, like Enneagram, Gene Keys, Myers-Briggs personality tests, different types of astrology. And I think that's all great. But what I found is that when we're living who we actually are, we don't actually need tools outside of us to tell us about ourselves.
Anything. You could have stopped it right there. We don't need tools outside ourselves. Yeah, period.
Right.
I agree. And so again, if you're busy-minded like we are, a lot of intellectual thinkers, and thinking is really praised and revered in our culture. Be busy, fix it, fix shit, work, manufacture things. Like, don't stop and think. Don't stop and evaluate. Don't have feelings. I mean, we hate that here.
Yeah.
If we do that, we might not conform.
Right.
And God forbid we don't do what they tell us to do. Don't get me started right now. So I feel like there's absolutely been a war on consciousness, and busyness and productivity has been the leverage to keep people from being quiet. So I do think all you really need to do is explore within, and it's just quiet and meditation.
Right.
Now, that seems to be really hard for Americans to do. We're not taught how to do it. It isn't given any reward in our culture. You have to basically have a nervous breakdown and go off on some self-discovery, to be like, oh, now I know how to meditate, because, but you damn well, you may have tried to kill yourself, or you were an opioid addict, right? So for me, the tool I used, because I am an American and I totally understand the mind and I respect it, I used neurofeedback. I think it's a wickedly powerful tool. I can do what would take you 5 years of meditation in like 2-3 months. Yeah. So I can get a brain into these deep hypnagogic states, teach you how to do it to yourself. You get such an amazing reward 2 to 3 times a week. You know what that is. We build a neurological pathway so strong that it's permanent. We hardwire alpha and theta and meditation. You can do it at will. So then your meditation is easier. Nobody likes to do anything and not good at it. It doesn't feel good. You like to do stuff you win at. So if you can drop into it and it's a rewarding feeling, then you love it, right? So I like meditation as a way. I like meditation, but I like neurofeedback as a way to teach people to go inside and learn to be quiet. I can turn off your monkey mind in a 30-minute session for you. And so when you go into that state, people come out and they're like, I don't think I've ever felt like that in my entire life. And I'm like, awesome. Stay there, because that is normal. That's how you're supposed to feel all the time.
Yeah.
So we have to train the body as to what normal physiology, like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that's right. See, now go, chill out for a while. Don't go get in the phone. Don't call anybody. Stay in that space. And the longer they stay that, the body normalizes to that. Right. And then we meditate and we stretch it out every day. You can do it at will. You don't actually need any of the other stuff externally to create it, but it's always kind of fun too. But, but yeah, you're right. Everything is right there. So to me, all those other things are just ways to feed the mind, feed the brain, make it happy. It likes to think, let it have that state so that it can relax, see something about itself, maybe talk about it, be okay with going. Everybody's afraid to go in their unconscious. Jared, they're afraid they're always going to find the stinky shit about themselves. Never considering though that there's diamonds and emeralds in there. I'm like, what if underneath that pile of crap you're so afraid of is the $10 million you've always wanted? Oh, that's right. Like that's what you keep assuming looking down there means I'm going to be bad instead of I'm awesome. I forgot how magical I was because the 2-year-old is like, I can fly. And then that's killed, right? So it's down there in your subconscious. And sometimes things happen that covered it up. And you sometimes have to remind people like, there's good stuff down there too, right? Oh, right. Let's go find it. So that's my journey. That's kind of the thing I do with people with neurofeedback or guided stuff or any kind of teaching. It's like, I'm trying to help them go down into that space and with some not being as scared, seeing what you go in the unconscious, you find something, you dip it up and you're like, oh, that's interesting. And you go down, you look at it again and you bring it up and then you integrate it and you do it again and you do it in little pieces that is safe. Your brain, your ego, your spirit, it will do it at a pace that's safe for you to handle. So I that's the ways I like it. So I meditate almost every day. I have for 20 years. It's a simple little thing. I enjoy it. But I do know as a cognitive person, it's when people, I can't do it. I did the same thing for a few years until I found the way that worked for me. And neurofeedback, I've done a ton on myself. That's a game changer for me. If you're trying to learn this stuff, heart math, neurofeedback, absolute game changers with how you can align your brain and your heart to drop into compassion and empathy and whole systems thinking. Because when you see that, when you bring that online and your mirror neurons are so strong in your brain, you can't look at a person and want to hurt them and go to war with them. When my mirror neurons are boom, like that's working, I just see myself. I am that.
Right.
I can't hate that. I'm like, well, I'm that too. So that's interesting.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I liked the metaphor that you used around dipping into the subconscious and then pulling up, and people are afraid of going down there and they're like, oh, but the best way that I've always, at least how I've learned to have it described was we're all diamonds. And then we go through life and we put, there's shit that gets caked over the diamonds, and then we get ashamed of the shit, and then we cover up the shit with lipstick.
Yeah. And then it smells. It's ugly and it does smell. Yeah.
Right. And that's like, oh man, yeah. So
you avoid it, and you should avoid it, right? It makes sense you're avoiding it. But the issue is when I have to remind people, like, oh, here's the thing. You made that decision when you were like 5 years old. You're 45. Do you still want the 5-year-old making the emotional relationship decisions for you? Right. I am pretty sure that shouldn't be the one to decide if you should get a divorce or not. So why don't we bring the adults on board to go talk to the 5-year-old and see what she needs? Because if she's the one deciding to get a divorce, I don't know. I wouldn't give my kid that much power. So he's 14 and I'm still like, you don't know what you're talking about, so you cannot make any decisions for me. And it's the same for business, right? You have people making business decisions. I coach doctors in practice and making money. And it's like, we have to decide, is it a wounded child or a rebellious teenager trying to make that business decision?
Absolutely.
Because an angry 17-year-old should probably not be making that decision. Let's get the adult on board to talk to that child and figure out why they're so damn angry or what they need, what you need to integrate. This isn't rocket science and it's not hard to do. I'm sure you've done this with your clients. It just takes a little bit of asking questions, being with someone who knows what they're doing and going, oh, and it's like, oh, and you'll be stunned at the insights you have and the freedom it gives you. You're like, oh my God, I feel so much better to be in charge of my life as an adult. I'm like, yeah, it's actually cool, But
it's really, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's amazing. I'll literally see the person come forward. Like sometimes it's really cool. Sometimes I'll actually see, like visually in my field, I'll actually see the past self come forward, like the child that was never
Emerging or whatever.
Yeah, the merging, like I'll actually see it. And it only has been within the last year and a half where I've actually started seeing people's future selves and their potential trajectories. And I'll literally actually visually see it. And then when I see that, I'll speak to it. I basically look at human beings as like what's like rings to a tree, where we have like when you chop down a tree, you see those rings, and those rings give information about what happened in the environment. I kind of see it that way now. Like when I'm in session with a person, I'll actually see what's created them, how their environment, and also the genetics, because there's all these variables that have created us into who we are moment by moment. And I'll actually see that play out. So sometimes I'll see the 5-year-old self come forward, the 10-year-old self, and then I'll start speaking to it. And then other times I'll see the potential future self, and I'll literally visually see it. Like it'll actually come forward. And then I'll see it. I'll be like, oh, there it is. And then I'll start more using feminine energy and inviting it out with that safe space or something like this. And
do your clients know you're doing that? Or you just,
it depends. I mean, so like if it's coming forward, it obviously wants to come forward. It feels safe enough to come forward. So whatever comes forward, I invite that out more, because that's clearly what wants to come forward. So I'll tell them, if I think it's valuable to the process, for sure. But I won't tell them in that much. Yeah, it's really neat. It's it really is cool.
I know a lot of people sometimes when they start doing that, they keep it secret. I knew a lot of doctors, even some that trained me, and we would talk, and I'm like, why don't you ever tell it? Oh no, they can't handle. So we would know what we were doing, and we would talk about all the things we were seeing. And I chose to always practice with being upfront with it. And people, and I get it's just different styles. So I was so curious. I'm like, do you take them through the process of what you're seeing at the same time,
Yeah, I mean, I would always, and that's a value systems, and I mean, there's so much around that, but I mean, I would want to know, me personally, like sometimes I'll just ask them. I'll say, like, do you want to know what's happening right now? And sometimes people will be like, yeah, definitely tell me, and I'll say it. And then other times people are like, no, like I'm just in this process. So I'm like, okay, well, if you ever get interested in knowing, then just let me know.
I always just do it. I always, before I work, I have my soul check in with their soul if I came and work with you. And I do ask. And so there's a lot of times I'm told stuff I can't tell them, which is tough when you're like, so sometimes I ask if you know if you did it, because sometimes you can't. You have to know it's like, it's not appropriate yet. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I always, I think that's where it's so valuable just to ask permission. Be like, hey, do you want to know? Do you want to hear this? I used to just be really excited and speak about it. And then I realized that, that probably wasn't the best.
Well, if you did it, it meant it was the best, but.
Right. Right. Well, I'm going to go to Stephanie. I want to do one question. Then I got my group call coming up in 7 minutes. So we'll rock off after that. But I want to bring Nicole's question up. She says, how do you lose the shame in believing you are worth taking up for yourself? I'm not sure if I understand that.
Like she doesn't think she's worth taking up space?
Yeah. How do you lose the shame in believing you are worth talking up for yourself? Maybe she means talking. So if I had to guess, because I do know Nicole a little bit. If I had to guess, what I'm thinking, Nicole, you can feel free if we don't have time to cover this, you can share this with me later. I think she's asking, if you don't believe, how do you lose the shame in believing you're worth taking up for yourself?
I know. I'm trying to put it.
So
I go into thinking of space, but it's not what she means.
Yeah, not space, not talking. I'm going to take a guess here. And Nicole, if this isn't on, then we can fix this later on. You can let me know about this later on. We'll fix it.
Do you have more questions above it, though? Because she said final edit to questions. But
okay. How do you make yourself learn to not always be in the heart? Okay, yeah, no, we'll just address this. I'll just go into it as best as I can, and then we got to rock off after this. I'm thinking that what she means, okay, speaking up, talking. So how do you lose the shame in believing you are worth speaking up for yourself? So using her voice. It sounds like she's trying to use her voice and speak up for herself, and there's shame around not speaking up for her needs.
Right. Well, one, it's clearly I would identify the earliest memory around that, and I would start reworking it, and I would start practicing, and I would probably do a gestalt with her or something, whoever that was, and whether she's got to pull out a picture, whether she's got to do it with me, and I stand in as a mother, if that mother was the shame, or if I need to find a photo of her father, if that was the one, like, who I would try to do a gestalt of some part, probably, and help talk her and even feed her the script of what to be saying about that. And once, it might take a few different memories and a few different things, because obviously when you have a belief, what your ego is going to do is always make you right and validate that. So your brain knows how to now find evidence constantly for that. So if the belief became, I can't speak up for myself, and there's a consequence to that. So either it's dangerous, I got hurt, they beat me, am I like, there's some risk to her doing that. It's dangerous. So you'd need to know that's on Nicole. I would look at it like this child perceived a danger, and I'm sure there was a valid reason. You believe there's something real that happened, and we have to, and so that was the best decision you could make at that time. And then you're just going to keep validating that and keep finding the pattern is going to be created. You're going to constantly find evidence. Well, see, it is dangerous to speak up for myself. Oh, see, I did it again and it happened. So first people are often coached to start changing a behavior before they've worked on the moral value, or the belief. So I believe moral value and beliefs are on one side of the teeter-totter, and the behaviors on the other side of a teeter-totter of the theory of cognitive dissonance. And they're always going to work to keep themselves in balance. And you might, Jared, know this. So it can't do this. It's going to constantly physiologically keep you neutral. So you're going to change things to keep yourself, your belief to be true, your behaviors, you're going to alter these things. Well, I would work on changing both simultaneously. So I'd work on something in here with somebody to work on some gestalts, outline what some of what do you believe? Like, write out what's going to happen if you speak up? Like, what's the worst case? I want to hear it all. I want to get to the root of this thing. It might take a while to a few sessions, whatever, get to that. Then once we do some gestalts, we do some clearing. I might have you write some affirmations and journal. I want some repetition to start changing. You can implant that with hypnosis. You can do all kinds of stuff, to be honest. You can use EFT to implant that, tapping. You can do neural feedback, and I can change a script around this. And then I would probably start doing a lot of vocalization. I would work on your throat chakra with some very specific throat energy, where I would make you do all kinds of crazy shit, like yodeling, chanting, sound bowl. I would do sound therapy. I would get, possibly sound therapists to start working on this just with nonsense, like with shamanic exercises. I say nonsense, but without it actually being a conversation to somebody.
Yeah.
So I'd work on it both ways, and then put some of that practice in, and you're going to start to practice it. And we start baby steps, right? It might not be walking in and to the family reunion and going after the father. It might be something else, right? So that's how I would end up approaching it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm sorry, Stephanie.
I gotta go.
Yeah, this was great. I wish I could go more and do longer, but I have to jump on my group program in 2 minutes.
Enjoy it.
There. What are you doing, and where can people find you?
Dr. Rimka. So I'm at Dr._Rimka on Instagram, Facebook. I'm Dr. Rimka's Brain and Body Solutions. I'm brainandbodysolutions.com, or drrimka.com is my main hub. And you can see about my practice there, and my online learning center, and my retreats. I do healing retreats and all kinds of stuff. We will travel again, people. It's a thing. So yeah, you can find me there.
Thanks so much for doing this with me, Stephanie. Thank you for introducing me to your community, everyone. It's been an honor and a delight to be here and have this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I'm sorry. We'll do it again, and we'll do it again for sure, and go deeper into this, because there's so many other pathways we can.
Awesome. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We're wishing you the best. Everyone have a lovely day. I love you all.